The CAD lecture series germinated on the first month of inception of the institution, and we made it public and open since its origination. Because the core value of any institution is to disseminate knowledge to the society where it belongs. And internally, it has helped our students to build their focused interest in key disciplines related to architecture and make conscious decisions for future career direction. I welcome our chairman, Professor Dr. Rajendran, members of the management, CAD students, my learned colleagues at CAD, and members of the architecture practice fraternity for this sharing session on co-creating circular cities, loops as leverage, a response to Kovai Urban Design Competition 2021. The lecture is of particular interest to us since the topic is also a part of our UD studio. As an urban designer myself, I quite appreciated specific aspects of the proposal, which I will take the opportunity to highlight after the lecture during the Q&A session. I welcome the members of the organizing team, Professor Dushyant, Professor Janani, Professor Angela Rasan, Professor Misbah, and a very special thanks to Architect Vinod Kumar for bringing Architect Bala on board for this timely lecture. I request the UD team to take over and formally introduce the speaker to our students and audience.
Yes, sir. The speaker for today, Architect Bala Nagendran, a landscape architect and urbanist, who will be presenting on the topic titled Kovai Urban Design 2021 Loops as Leverage. Architect Bala has completed his B.Arch degree from School of Architecture and Planning, Anna University, Chennai, and his M.Arch in Landscape Architecture from School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi. After practicing as an architect in Shelters Design Studio, his passion for urban design led him join ITDP as a research associate in Pan India urban design projects. Architect Bala Nagendran's long list of many achievements in the brief span of his early career starts in 2019 with Sri Anand Award for the best performance in landscape studio. Architect Bala, being an active participant in many competitions from his college days, has won many awards and special mentions in international events. He won the second runner-up award in Entekochi Design Competition in 2020. He also stood tall among the top 10 finalists in Victor Nelson Ideas Competition, Ukraine, in the same year. Following which, he had been shortlisted for Seoul Biennale of Architecture and Urbanism in 2021. Architect Bala has been honored as one of the top 10 social innovators by the Youth Collab as a part of Atal Innovation Mission India 2021. The latest feather in his cap is his win in Kovai Urban Design Competition, in which, and as a part of ITDP India, Architect Bala has worked on urban design projects, namely transforming urban mobility for nurturing early childhood development in Pune, Streets for People Challenge, and COVID-19 Green Recovery Initiative for Indian Smart City Mission Pan India, and the Creating Walk and Cycling Network Plan for the cities of Tirupur, Salem, and Erode in Tamil Nadu. I would now like I would now like to welcome Architect Bala Nagendran to share with us his experiences in making our cities a better place to live in and enlighten our young generation with his knowledge and experience. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's really a pleasure to be here. Good evening, everyone. Thanks to the CAD management for this opportunity, and thanks a lot for quite an elaborate introduction as well. So, shall I quickly get into the presentation directly, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Yeah, good. So good evening, everyone. So today we'll be discussing on co-creating circular cities. Before I get into the actual presentation on elaborating our process and how we conceived this particular project itself, I would like to give an overview or the project background on why we did this and what are the components that we took into consideration for this project itself. Some of you might already be aware or like very much informed about the Kovai Urban Design Competition, which was co-hosted by Coimbatore Municipal Corporation and the GIZ India. So the project actually invited architects, urban designers, and students to propose ideas to do a complete redevelopment of a ward level planning in Kovai. So that's the context of the competition. So we are a collaborative team from across members across the globe, as you may see. So we have professionals with experience in urban design, spatial strategy, landscape, transport planning, architecture, social studies, anthropology, etc. So we are a collaborative team who put together our entry, Loops as Leverage, which won second place in the competition. So whatever I'm going to present today is going to be the larger insights from working on this particular project, and also how we went about this whole idea of Loops as Leverage itself. So the project process looked like this. So there was an urban design competition where we were invited to propose concept approaches. And the second stage of the project would be about project development, where we'll be co-creating design and planning strategies along with the communities and also all other involved stakeholders. And the third phase of the project would be project mobilization, which requires implementation strategy and construction drawings, etc. So currently, as you all may know, we have just completed the first part of this whole process, where we have won the competition, and now we are moving ahead to the next step towards developing this idea to the next level. So even in our minds, this idea is fresh and it's in the very preliminary stage. So that also leads us to a stage where, like, this particular session could also become a co-creating process for us. Your suggestions and your questions will also be as valuable as it could be for us to take forward in the whole process of the next few months when we will be working on this project. So now jumping into the presentation on co-creating circular cities for the case of Kaundampalayam in Coimbatore. So when we got the brief to redesign or redevelop the ward Kaundampalayam in Coimbatore, we felt that is a very fresh opportunity in an Indian context, where you have gotten to develop or like plan the entire ward. It's not a very similar experience that you get from other urban design projects. So we wanted this particular project to not just end with the particular ward, but expand at the larger city level. So we wanted to develop from a larger vision and see how that vision could also be achieved, or like this particular project could become a seed for the larger vision itself. So that's when we came up with the circular Kovai vision. For a lot of us, Coimbatore actually means a lot in terms of its how the natural resources are in Coimbatore. We might remember the Nilgiris, or it's also an industrial city which have booming economic opportunities. So there are a lot of exchanges and flows happening within the city and also from outside the city. Understanding all that, we felt this is the right place to also experiment circularity in its pure sense. So we built our vision on three goals: regenerative ecology, productive economy, and inclusive society. So if I said a lot about circularity now, right, you must be wondering what is circularity, or what do we mean by circular economy, or developing cities based on circular economy itself. So the key principles of circularity or circular economy will works under these three things. First, designing out waste and pollution. Second, keeping products, materials, and services in use for longer. And three, regenerating natural systems. So these principles became the foundation for our work as well. So let's see how we took it forward. So from the vision on circularity, we were looking to identify what could be the microsystems which will help us to achieve circularity. In that search, we identified 4 microsystems: people, water, food, and energy. We felt these 4 systems will embed the vision in the project and also drive us towards a collective sustainable vision for future. And that became our starting point. So now we have to see how this vision could be built on the particular site we have been given for. So we started looking at the assets in the site, like what are the assets existing in the site, which could be aligned to these 4 larger systems, or the loops that we call. So the first is people loop. So in the site currently, there are a lot of open spaces which the existing local citizens and community are engaging in multiple different ways. So that became, the open spaces became our asset in terms of people loop. For water, there is a Sanganur canal running inside the ward itself, which has been completely neglected in state. So that became our asset. For food, there is a new market proposal that has been envisioned for this particular ward area, which is a relocation of the Coimbatore's wholesale market. It's going to be like a big scale urban project in itself. So that covers our asset for food. And surprisingly, this ward uniquely had this particular asset for energy. So there is a solar park within the neighborhood itself, which we felt is a good way to start for energy loop. So these became our assets, which currently are disintegrated, and we would like to make it the beginning for a larger circular system. So how did we approach circularity itself? So we have the vision, we have the goals, we identified the assets. The next step, how do we go forward into the planning and design itself? So at that juncture, we came up with the toolbox idea. So there is one toolbox we want to create. We call it a circularity toolbox. So there are 4 loops and we have 48 tools. This is our larger canvas on the larger palette that we had, from which we build our design at every stage going forward. So what do we mean by a tool? How to use a tool? So when we say a tool has all these components included in it. It has a micro loop showing like how the particular tool will be worked out. For example, in this case, it's a community farm. So the produce will go to the local neighborhoods, the local household itself. So that's the micro loop it's forming. Next is the tool spatial scale, whether it's like a large scale tool or it's something it has to be done in a very small scale. That's what we mean by spatial scale. So you could see like a L here, which means large. So there is a spatial unit as well to say where it has to be implemented or where it has to be planned. It should be planned as part of the open space or building or street or canal, whatever it is. And we also have a number to assign it, to also relate to it. And there's a tool name. And as well, most interestingly, there is a circularity value. So for every tool, we also worked out a circularity value, which aligns to the 3 goals I spoke about in the initial stage. So we had the inclusive society, regenerative ecology, and productive economy. So for all the 3 goals, we tried to do a circularity value for each of the tools. So these information will help us further map and assign the right tools for the right places. So this is how the tool starts. So starting from the people loop, each loop has 4 action words, which gives us further broken down tools. So starting with the first action word, which is live. So we have smart utilities, incremental housing, community forums, which enhances livability as part of this particular action word. And then it move, which has low emission street, no emission street, and also multimodal integration to promote sustainable mobility. And then under the work action, we have mixed use development, which can nurture economic growth, vendor zones, and as well skill development centers for the community. And finally, under the engage word, we have cultural nodes, green networks, and play networks, which all will function as shared social amenities. So once we have all these tools, the next step for us was to map and see which action words could come at where in the entire Kaundamalayam neighborhood, in the entire Kaundamalayam ward itself. We also went ahead to see who are the stakeholders in the government side or the non-government side who could help us achieve this, and also what would be the loop value for this entire process itself. And we also looked at ways in which we can build this as part of the virtual experience for people. So the virtual experience is not only about informing them, but also engaging with them and also involving them in part of the operations and maintenance components. So that was the larger system. So similarly, we worked out all the other 3 loops as well. So the water loop starts with the action on collect. So we focus on harvesting rainwater with multiple tools. And the next step is to treat them towards optimizing resources. So we collected them. Now we are treating them through multiple tools, including canal filter system, phytoremediation, and water treatment units ingrained within the building environment itself. And then releasing them in a way that it restores biodiversity, like releasing them in a way that there is a pumping station next to a water body, or there's a direct aquifer recharge activity that is possible. And the last one is to restore resources, regenerate resources. So we have proposed blue-green lifelines, urban forests, and also water forums, which could be the anchor for governance and also other management-related mechanisms. So similarly, we did map the same action words on the Kaundamalayam context. We worked out the stakeholders, we worked out the loop values, and saw how we could integrate it with the mobile application. Then it comes the food loop. So food loop starts with produce. So the initial point here is to achieve self-sufficiency, and the tools that we could do integrate here are community farms, edible streets, and also community nursery. So once we produce, of course, the next logical step is to trade. So see how the communities can trade these produce. And following that, so this is where the circularity comes. Usually what we do, we produce, we trade, and the cycle ends there. But then when we talk about circularity, it's from starting from 0 and again going back to 0. So we have to see the entire process cycle. So next comes the consumption part, which monitors health. We have community kitchens, food outlets, and also wellness center included as part of this. And finally, the waste management part is covered through a series of compost tools, which includes microcomposting and also food banks. So again, the same process of mapping them on the Condambalium and identifying the stakeholders, loop values, and again integration to the citizen engagement tools. And final loop is the energy loop. This is not something very familiar or not something we usually include in a planning exercise, but we felt this is really important when we are talking about climate change, when we are talking about low carbon emission and all of that. This also becomes part of the larger urban narrative than just staying as an add-on to it. So this starts from action word on generate. So we talk about maximizing the use of renewables. How we can do that is through energy parks or waste to energy ports or like waste to energy plants in large scale. All that could be a possibility. And next, once you generate, you distribute that and then renew it. We adopt like right products here. Like it's more of consumer choice on right products, which includes like smart appliances, solar street lights, and also e-mobility, etc. And finally, the natural systems for conserving energy. Like we would have studied a lot of mechanisms or like a lot of strategies to make energy efficient buildings or like to promote cool microclimate in our planning strategies. So all of that comes into picture in the last action word. So as the drill continues, we have mapped them on a Condambalium map and then identify the stakeholders, loop values, and then the citizen engagement tool. So this is how we got and worked together with the entire tool set. So the two things we have to be very clear here. One, we had not forced to use all the tools in this one particular context. We were very clear that this toolbox is a larger level tool that we wanted to accompany the vision that we have built for Coimbatore itself. But when it came to Condambalium, we only picked the right ones which will suit the context and which will seamlessly tie up with the context itself. And the second point is also that when we talk about all of these loops separately, they might look very sound perfect and also look very clean and neat. But how do they all come together? How do we ensure that these loops work together in a systemic manner is the larger question we had. So answering towards that is the next part of the presentation. So the proposal itself had like three components to it after the toolkit part. So we have the toolkit, we built the toolkit. Now we know the vision, we have the tools for it. Now we are getting into the execution part of it. So we had three components, as I mentioned. The first one is a ward level framework plan. The second one, from the ward, how do we shift that to like a neighborhood concept master plan? And finally, how do we pick designs for smaller pilots within this neighborhood? So these are the three strategic scales on how we approach the entire project. The first one is the ward level framework plan. I'm not going to get into the details of every inch and every centimeter of this particular plan. As you might see, it might look complex, but then I would like to highlight a few things. So at the framework plan, what we did is like one, we definitely had to draw some hard lines in the sense that like we had to introduce new programs and new activities into the entire framework. Like example, this particular piece of land you might see at the bottom is currently an empty space, which is a proposed location for relocating the market. So we have drawn out the entire master plan for the market. Similarly, we are also like included like a water system which could run across the entire site and also become a blue-green lifeline for the neighborhood. So likewise, we included such very strong character to the entire master plan, entire framework plan. But the other thing to note here is, if you could see the smaller numberings that you could see everywhere across the entire plan. So those are the ones linking it back to the toolkit. So in a framework level plan, you might not be able to clearly show what has to come here because the plan will happen at a 1000 or like 2000 scale, which will not give you enough space to explain everything that you want to say. So in that case, the toolkit actually will be really helpful. You just have to put the number here, which they could go back and relate to the toolkit itself. And they know exactly what has to come here and why it is coming here. So that's how the framework plan has been planned. Going forward, the next step was master plan. So in the larger framework, we picked up like two neighborhoods. One is a residential neighborhood, which you see here, and then the market complex itself. So these two neighborhoods have been picked for further detailing, which is what I'll be explaining now. The first one is the circular neighborhood. this neighborhood is currently predominantly a residential neighborhood, and it's also a typical suburban neighborhood in any city that we might encounter. So here our approach had been a trifold approach. So the first one was we wanted to also see how a greenfield uh, development could happen here. If you see the large northern chunk of the land, it's all completely empty for now. So we try to see if we can completely land pool them, land consolidate the land there, and propose a uniform grid system to comprehend our idea about net zero buildings on super blocks itself. So that was one approach. And we also demonstrated infill development here. So the white buildings you see are the existing ones, and you could see a lot of these smaller plots which are empty within those white buildings. So those are the infill development we thought could come in within the existing fabric. And the third approach was a retrofit approach, where the buildings mostly on the periphery are existing ones. We didn't want to touch them and like change it completely. We also can't do it. That's not a feasible way to go about it. But what we did is we proposed a land use changes and also augmented open space management in order to see how they also could fit into the larger fabric with the new vision itself. So these were the three larger approaches we took for the circular neighborhood master plan. And also here, another thing we took into consideration was densifying the street network. The current scenario doesn't have such a dense street network which would encourage people to walk and cycle. We densify the street network further with punctuated plazas and smaller pocket parks wherever possible, which also will help the city to develop in a more breathable manner. So these were the primary considerations. And we picked up some scenarios to build from here, which includes maybe backyard farming, community school, and we also had included an inclusive skill training center as part of this plan. We had a vibrant public space corner, which has a plaza and other amenities around it, a cultural square, and also citizen-friendly mobility in form of public transport networks. And also, as I mentioned, this particular patch where we completely took it as a greenfield development, we explored the idea of super blocks in a very micro scale. This is not something you can equate to the scale of what you see in other cities which have already explored super blocks. This is like a very micro scale of it, but still how the tools that we spoke about could fit in here was the experiment that we tried to do. So that was it about the circular neighborhood. The second part of the neighborhood is the circular market. So market in itself is a very tough and tight typology to work with because it has its essence in chaos. It has its essence in the lack of order, right? That's how we associate a market with. So, but we had to also bring in the perspectives of how this could become a public space and how it could interact with the existing public fabric outside. For example, so we looked at three major zones in the market, which I'll be explaining now. So the first zone is the public plaza, which is like a retail market setup along with the plaza, which interacts with the existing corporation park. So this mound is a park by the corporation. So we wanted to see how we can expand that open space further and make it as a one larger open space which connects with the main road itself. And the second section is the wholesale market, which is going to be like a dense market environment with a lot of activities of unloading, loading, etc., etc. So that's how it's been organized as well. And the last section is an interactive market edge, which connects with the low-income neighborhood, which is located on this side of the site itself. So they will have like activity areas, there are basic amenities for public toilet, workshop areas, community center, all of that. So that is what covered in the large segment. So this comprehensively covers our master plan level work. From here, we moved on to the pilot design. So we picked up two pilots which could help the city to initiate this whole work. Okay, we have a great vision. We could have like a lot of goals, toolbox, everything. Finally, where do we start? Like we should need like a tangible beginning point for the city to accept this proposal and take it forward. So we picked up two pilot projects. One of that is here. So if you see, this is the street network next to the corporation park. So currently the park is in complete neglect and underuse. So we wanted to make sure that the accessibility of the park is very well addressed, which will enhance the value of the neighborhood and also improve the quality of the public space around it. So for that reason, we picked up this one as the first pilot. And our second pilot is the People's Plaza within the market itself. Though the entire market complex is like 13 acres and it's going to take a lot of time for it to come into picture, this particular zone, which has the People's Plaza, could be brought up like very few months, even if we don't have like enough budgets. So we thought this could be the other pilot project which could engage with people and also have a good visibility for the project itself. So these two became our pilot projects. So now we have all these plans and designs. So what is the implementation strategy? Of course, we will be doing like a very detailed implementation strategy at the end of our work. This is just an initial framework that we have developed. So our implementation framework has like 3 phases. The first one is piloting catalyst, which I mentioned now. We have pilot projects identified for each subsites. So that will be acting as a catalyst for the project, larger vision itself. And once these pilots are in place, the next phase is to expand the network. So for each of the loops, like we have people loop, water loop, food, energy. So each of the loop, there are certain level of networks that we have to create. For example, for people loop, we might need mobility and open space networks. For water, we need like stormwater and biodiversity network. For energy, we might need like smart grid and e-mobility network. So likewise, we need to create these networks so that it works seamlessly and not in a disintegrated manner anymore. And finally, the phase 3 is activating systems. When we say activating systems and phase 3 doesn't mean that it happens at the last. It's something has to happen from the very first day of the project, but it will end in a very later stage. It will take a lot of time for it to settle. That's what we mean by phase 3 here. So what do we mean by activating systems is there are a lot of existing policies, guidelines, and programs which already aligns with all these concepts and thoughts we have. Like example, if I have to pick up the energy loop, so the government already have a Tamil Nadu domestic solar roof subsidy scheme. It also has a Tamil Nadu electric vehicle policy. So there are a lot of these existing policy which could be aligned with this vision and further could also be formalized as clear governance modules so that this vision is not only stays with the paper but also get materialized on ground. So that's what we mean by activating systems. So all till here, it's all a process that we have done from our own understanding of site and also the limited data that we have got. But as a way forward, it would be a participatory approach as much as possible within the constraints of the COVID we are facing today. So we have already proposed like a lot of activities that could be included as part of the participatory approach, including community activities, awareness campaigns, etc., which we are still in the process of streamlining and taking it forward. But one of the interesting ways that we interacted or included participatory approach in our previous project is like we also had engaged with the citizens through a serious gaming approach. So we developed these smaller cards which highlights the different tools that we have, like similar to how I showed the toolkit in the initial slides. So there could be a tool and tool name, description, which will enable the citizens to read and understand what we mean by that. And it could also have like a sustainability score or a circularity score, whatever we call it. And citizens could easily play with it and see how they engage with those solutions, if they have agreements, etc. So this is just one way of doing it. We are still exploring other ways of doing it as well. So that comes to the end of this presentation. Thank you so much for the opportunity and hearing me out. I would love to have any questions or suggestions from you all.
Yeah, over to Vinod sir for the question answer session.
Hello, Bala.
Hi.
It was a great kind of a toolkit. It can be implemented in any city, right? It can be in a.
We could say that, but then we would say that it could be implemented anywhere. But then currently the idea started from Kowai. So without at least testing in one city, we can't sell it for other cities. So that's where it stands.
That's a very interesting perspective. Okay. So the first question here we have it from fourth year. What are the tools and softwares used for documenting the base information?
So actually the thing is, like, since this is a competition, so all the base information and all the base work was done by the organizing committee itself, which is GIZ India. So we were not involved in any kind of actual site documentation or preparing the base work, which is something we will be doing now. Like going forward in the next phase of the work, we will be involved in mapping some of these existing infrastructure in GIS, and also we have to do like detailed topographic surveys, which has to be initiated only after a month or something because of COVID as well. But before that, we didn't do anything. It was all from the organizers.
Okay. Where is that landscape part coming to the zoning of a landscape? The land use part, land use part. Is that how the toolkit and land use go in hand?
So yeah, So, how we also saw this is like some of the decisions also has to happen from a rational understanding of the larger side. It can't be like a very straightforward or like strict one-on-one solution based on the toolkit alone, because the toolkit has its own limitations. We can't only make decisions based on toolkit, because you also, as an individual person, would have understood some basic rationals through your own experiences and earlier understanding of urban systems, right? So when we wanted to mention about example, the very first question that you asked yourself, the mixed use, if you say if you want to propose a separate specific mixed use development, the toolkit can only say to a level that where it could be done and how much it could be done, but exactly plotting it on the plan is something you have to do it, of course. So even when we have interacted with toolkits with the community before, what we have understood is they were able to grasp the tools, but then where exactly to put it is something we still have to direct them. That's like a other process that we have to take forward for each of the tools. It's not sufficient for them to take the decision about that only with the toolkit.
The next question.
Yeah.
What was the unit area of the land considered for a tool modules?
So again, that very much varies, because as I mentioned, like there are different tools which have been marked with tool scales, right? I mentioned spatial scales. So there are something which we have assigned as S till XL. So we have XL, L, M, S, and that's how we mapped them. Anything which is S is something we have figured out in a area of 10 meter by 10 meter. But something which is an XL, which is something which is in Excel, it would even go for like 100 meters. For example, in one of the toolkits we did, we also had like a breakwaters as a toolkit, as a tool. Breakwaters is something which you do along the coastal edge. So such a tool requires like a larger area. So the area currently we have shown is very indicative. That's not how it's very representative, I would say. That's why we have the XL assigned to each of the tools. So that will guide them to at least fairly understand whether it's a small scale thing or a large scale thing, or like a even XL regional level thing.
The next question is more contextual.
Sure.
How is the site slum clearance was done? I think there's a slum inside Kondapalem.
So actually the site has like had slums before, which was cleared already. So whatever was cleared already, we didn't like negotiate on that further. Like it was already cleared, so we have just used that as a empty land now. We didn't propose any clearance activities in our proposal. Whatever the existing slums are there, sorry, we would also like to call it as only low-income neighborhoods, not slums anymore. Whatever low-income neighborhoods are there, we are retaining it as it is. No, not removing any of them.
So I have a question.
Yeah, please.
What is the probable tool that you can add when you consider the same scenario in a very dense fabric like in Chennai? Maybe when you're treating EWS areas or slum areas, the toolkit might be expand to an extra addition of economic layer might be. So what's your thoughts on strategies for core dense areas?
Sure. So I would say the major limitation there would be about the open space. We won't have enough open space. So we might currently our spatial units have been open space, street, building, and canal. So that have been our spatial units in the process. But if you are doing in a dense neighborhood, we also considered a different spatial unit called terraces itself. Like within buildings, we wanted to focus on terraces as a separate possibility, where we can highlight what are the possible solutions for terraces in specific. So that would have been the difference that I think.
Thank you. How is the Sanganallur Canal is retreated?
So we were very conscious that we didn't want to do a lot of interventions around the Sanganallur Canal. So in terms of biological treatment, definitely we have to take care of the edge treatments again to avoid erosion. And also we can't entirely go and say that this particular segment alone will be treated. The government already has like a larger proposal to do like a 8 lakes project for the entire Coimbatore, which already have been started. They are doing that. So the larger cleaning of the canal has to come from a more engineering solution. What we have wanted to do is like we introduce only 3 cleaning systems. One is we want to have a lot of these filtering techniques, like where you put these larger filters in the course of runoff, stormwater runoff itself. So there is no more possibility of polluting the canal. You can at least kind of restrict pollution further happening to the canal. So that is one solution. And second thing we wanted to do is along the banks of the canal, we wanted to try phytoremediation, which could help in actually remediate the soil conditions along the canal for the future purposes, and we could start growing dense forestry along the canal. And the third thing we wanted to do is we only wanted to give maintenance pathways along the canal, not any entertainment or recreational pathways, for the same reason that we wanted to ensure the canal is for the community already living there. We don't want to make it as a real estate opportunity for future.
Next question. Yeah. To which extent are the people participating in this project?
Sorry, Vinod?
To which extent people are participating in this project?
Yes. So for the competition stage, if I may have to say, like before setting the brief itself, the competition organizers had conducted a lot of on-ground studies and also stakeholder consultations. Now, in our brief itself, a lot of portions have been highlighted saying this is what the recommendations from the community, or this is what the recommendations from the representatives of the community. That's how the brief itself was set. So we have a fair understanding of what the community wants, or at least what their initial thoughts are. That's how what we have taken it forward in our proposal. The next stage, when we are further developing this, so currently the plan is that there will be like 3 levels of engagement. One, there will be like a public ceremony, like where there will be like exhibition or like a public consultation session where public can come and see the designs and also share their views. That's one way of doing it. And also we are looking for consultation sessions, but then the effectiveness of it is going to be depending on COVID, to be honest, because we have only 5 months for the next this project to end. So before that, if we could really pull off an on-ground engagement and also pull off a lot of stakeholders for the engagement, that's completely dependent on that. And the last one, once we finalize the design, we definitely will go back to the community to tell them what we have done. So these are the 3 stages of engagement currently is being planned, but the middle one is very much dependent on the COVID scenario. Vinod, I think you are in
mute.
I'm sorry. Coming to the implementing strategies, can you throw light on the monitoring phase? I think it is very important when it comes to a planning process, which every time any planning process, they ignore that monitoring part. So can you throw some light on what can be the monitoring part after the implementation?
Yeah. So the idea for us as well is that there are a lot of these schemes, such as I highlighted as well. Like there is already like a subsidization scheme available for solar roof. There is a subsidization scheme for terrace garden itself, which is active in Chennai and Coimbatore. So there are a lot of these already existing schemes, but it didn't reach people enough only because there wasn't enough monitoring done on those projects. And because of lack of monitoring, we don't have any data on that. None of us now know like if a particular neighborhood completely is being transformed to off-grid solar energy. We don't know how much we save exactly because we never tested that. We were never able to test that itself. So I think monitoring is really important in that sense to see and get the data right. Only if we have the data, we can even get to the next step. I feel like in our context, we are not able to take a lot of steps ahead only because we don't have data. We don't have the proof to say this is what will be your result.
Next question is, there was a mobile scene in Loop drawings.
Yeah.
So, did you use any special particular app for this?
No. Currently, it's very representative for it matter. So we only have envisioned like 3 purposes for those apps. Like one is engagement itself. Like currently with COVID, we are really facing engagement, citizen engagement, even for the design phase. Even going forward to be really difficult. So we wanted to see how the information dissemination and engagement itself could happen through citizen mobile apps, etc. That is first stage. Second stage is also to involve them in the whole process in terms of operations and maintenance. So in one of the previous projects, what we did is like to manage the entire waste within the neighborhood, we involved the local community itself. At least the framework that we gave is that the local community itself come together to manage the waste. So they know how to do it in the local level itself. It's not dependent on the larger centralized system sitting somewhere outside the city boundaries. So the second one is about operations and maintenance. And third thing we also wanted to do with these apps is tell them, inform them clearly about what they are doing, like the repercussions of their own actions. Like we don't know how much water we are consuming. We don't know how much gas we are consuming. So when we want to like let's say like every day you have a message saying this much energy you have consumed today. When you get those messages, you will always become conscious to say that, okay, tomorrow maybe I have to consume a little less, or like when you consume more, what would be the number. So we want to give those information as much as possible. Only then the loop system that we are talking is actually going to work. Otherwise, it will again just stay on paper. So these were the 3 ideas that we have, but then it has not been developed to the level to give information and details more on it. But that's the next step way ahead for us.
Thank you, Bala. It was a very interesting ideas.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Over to Janani, ma'am.
Yeah.
May I add one more question, please?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So just a lighter. I mean, Vinod's question were too intense, I think. So everything very specific and intense. So mine would be the light side. The figuration of the people and activities in the so very well connected to the place. The choice of attire, the activity, and even the skin tone for that matter, mostly rural Indian. So such depictions strike an instant connection to notional attachment. So even before the students or the viewers try to read the document, and notionally they already understand what you are coming up to say. So I'm sure it is a conscious endeavor. So
yeah, it was a very conscious effort.
Yeah.
Very conscious effort. Like if you see, we will notice that we have a transgender included. We have an infant, toddler included. The pathways will have a stroller going forward. So it's a very conscious effort, because like, unless we show these images on our representation, they will never be represented, is what we believe. So that's a very conscious effort, sir. Thanks for noticing and highlighting it.
A very intelligent thing for a competition. And definitely, I think the intent is there, so that is more important. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it was a wonderful session with lots of information and knowledge, sir. And thanks to you. And over to Professor Vinod for delivering the vote of thanks. Yeah.
Hello, Bala.
Hi.
What I really like about this, an idea of circularity. Can you elaborate? Where did you get that an idea?
So this came from a very simple thought that, like, why do we have to look at static systems instead? Why can't we look at dynamic systems? That's where it germinated. And then when we started researching, we also understood and found out that, like, there is already Amsterdam already has a circular vision plan. Like Amsterdam has like circular vision neighborhood plans as well. And also even Goa has done a study on circularity, on how it could become like part of their planning, development and planning schemes. So there are these niche initiatives already happening across the globe, and we have spoken enough about global warming and everything, but then we have not really made those concepts mainstream. Because like when we talk about circular economy, we also won't know sometimes how to spatially interpret that, right? Like even we were struggling for it, to be honest. And then it was little hard for also to find a way to get into paper. So I think it's just like a very initial step for us also to understand how these concepts could be translated onto paper. But then there are precedents to it. Like the Amsterdam has a really good case study on how they are aiming to do this, but they don't have a detailed plan and design, but they have the vision documents and like policy level references already in place.
The term itself is like sounds very futuristic for a sustainable output. Okay. Thank you so much, Bala. Thank you for immediately accepting my request for the lecture. It was very wonderful. I thank you on behalf of the CAD management team and the students. I take this opportunity to thank our chairman, sir, Professor Dr. Rajendran sir, for his constant support. Adding to my sincere gratitude to our director, Vinod sir, principal, and all the staff members. And to top it all, our wonderful students for their presence and discipline. My sincere thanks to our technical support team, Dushant sir, Tamil Edil, Janani ma'am, Edil sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bala. Thank you for being with us. Stay safe. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.